In the grand tapestry of human history, some threads shine brighter than others. They are not always the threads of kings or conquerors. Sometimes they are the quiet threads of ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things. This is the story of two such people. Their names were Shiphrah and Puah. They lived long ago in the ancient land of Egypt. They were midwives. Their job was to welcome new life into the world. They were guardians at the very gate of existence, their hands the first to hold the future. In a world ruled by powerful men, they held a different kind of power, the power of creation and compassion. These women were part of the Hebrew people who were living as slaves in Egypt. Day after day they toiled under the harsh sun, building great cities for a ruler who did not see them as human. Yet even in this darkness there was hope. That hope came with every newborn child. Shiphrah and Puah were at the center of this hope. They were more than just medical practitioners. They were pillars of their community. They understood the sacred trust placed upon them. Each cry of a newborn was a song of survival, a testament to the enduring spirit of their people, a promise that they would not be erased. Their names, Shiphrah and Puah, whisper of beauty and life. Shiphrah is thought to mean to be fair or beautiful. Puah could mean to cry out or to sparkle. These names perfectly capture their roles. They brought beauty into a world of suffering. They gave a voice to the voiceless. They were a sparkle of light in a time of deep shadow. Their work was physically demanding, but it was their spiritual strength that truly defined them. They were women of faith who believed in a power higher than any earthly king, a power that cherished every single life, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. Imagine the world they inhabited, a world of sand and stone, of pyramids reaching for the heavens, built by the hands of the oppressed. In this world, the birth of a child was a fragile miracle. Shiphrah and Puah navigated this delicate space with skill and grace. They knew the secrets of herbs and the rhythms of the body, but more importantly, they knew the language of the heart. They offered comfort to anxious mothers and spoke words of encouragement when strength faltered. They were the silent, unsung heroes who ensured that the chain of life, the story of their people, would continue, link by precious link. But a shadow was falling over the land of Egypt. The ruler, the Pharaoh, looked upon the Hebrew people not with respect but with fear. He saw their numbers growing, he saw their strength, and in their resilience he saw a threat to his own power. Fear is a poison. It can twist the heart of even the most powerful ruler. Pharaoh's fear grew into a dark and terrible plan. He decided he must stop the Hebrews from becoming too numerous. His solution was one of unimaginable cruelty, a command that defied the very laws of nature and decency. So the Pharaoh summoned the two midwives, Shiphrah and Puah. He brought them into his grand palace, a place of gold and power. He looked down upon them from his throne, expecting them to tremble. He gave them a direct order. It was a command that must have chilled them to the bone. He said, "When you help the Hebrew women give birth, look at the newborn. If it is a boy, you must kill him. If it is a girl, you may let her live." He wanted them to turn their life-giving hands into instruments of death. He was asking them to betray their sacred duty. Think about this moment. Two women standing before the most powerful man in their world. He held the power of life and death over them and their entire people. To disobey him meant certain punishment. It meant risking their own lives. Pharaoh believed his authority was absolute. He thought his command was enough to bend anyone to his will. He did not understand the source of their true strength. He saw them only as servants, as tools to be used for his cruel purpose. He failed to see the courage that resided within their hearts, a courage that came from a place he could not touch. The king's order was a test. It was a test of their character, their faith, and their humanity. He was asking them to choose between obedience to a man and obedience to a higher moral law. Would they follow the path of safety and collaboration, or the dangerous path of righteousness? The air in the throne room must have been heavy with the weight of this choice. The future of an entire generation rested on their shoulders. Pharaoh's words were not just a political strategy. They were an attack on the very essence of life, an attempt to extinguish the future of a people, one baby at a time. In the face of this monstrous command, Shiphrah and Puah made a choice. It was a silent, powerful, and world-changing choice. They did not argue with the Pharaoh. They did not protest in the palace. They simply left his presence and returned to their work. And there, in the quiet intimacy of the birthing rooms, they defied the king. They chose life. They feared God more than they feared Pharaoh. This fear was not one of terror, but of deep reverence and respect for the creator of life. They understood that no earthly king had the right to command them to commit murder. So when a Hebrew woman gave birth, Shiphrah and Puah did everything in their power to save the child. When a baby boy was born, they did not harm him. Instead, they celebrated his arrival. They saw the image of God in his tiny face. They heard the promise of the future in his first cry. They ignored the king's decree. This was not a loud rebellion with swords and shields. It was a quiet revolution of the human spirit. It was an act of civil disobedience, rooted in the deepest convictions of their souls. They risked everything, not for glory or for power, but for the life of a child. Soon, the Pharaoh noticed that his plan was failing. The Hebrew population continued to grow. The baby boys were not disappearing. He called for Shiphrah and Puah once more. He demanded an explanation. "Why have you done this?" he asked. "Why have you let the boys live?" Now they stood before him again, their secret defiance exposed. They had to think quickly. They had to be clever. Their lives and the lives of countless others depended on their answer. The moment of reckoning had arrived, and their courage was about to be tested in a new and even more dangerous way. With incredible quickness and bravery, they gave the king an answer. They said, "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwife can even get to them." This clever excuse served two purposes. It protected them from the king's wrath, and it subtly praised the strength and vitality of their own people. It was a small, brilliant act of resistance. They used their words as a shield, protecting the innocent and frustrating the plans of the tyrant. They proved that courage is not always about shouting. Sometimes it is about the wisdom of a quiet answer. The story does not end with their clever excuse. The consequences of their bravery rippled outward, changing the course of history. Because Shiphrah and Puah chose to defy evil, the Hebrew boys were saved. The people continued to grow in number and in strength. God saw their courageous and compassionate hearts. The ancient texts tell us that God was good to the midwives. He blessed them. He gave them families of their own. Their act of righteousness was not forgotten. It was rewarded with the very thing they fought to protect for others, the gift of life and family. Their bravery had a direct and profound impact on the future. Among the many baby boys they saved, one would grow up to change the world. His name was Moses. Had Shiphrah and Puah obeyed the Pharaoh, Moses would have been killed at birth. The story of the Exodus, the story of a people's journey from slavery to freedom, might never have happened. The entire history of a nation, and indeed the world, was balanced on the moral choice of two women. Their small act of defiance allowed for the birth of a leader who would one day stand before a different Pharaoh and demand, "Let my people go." What can we learn from Shiphrah and Puah today, in our own complex world? Their story is a timeless lesson about the power of individual conscience. It teaches us that we all have a choice when we are faced with injustice. We can choose to comply, to stay silent, or we can choose to stand up for what is right even when it is difficult or dangerous. They show us that true courage is not the absence of fear, but acting for the good despite our fear. Their story reminds us that you do not need to be a king or a general to change the world. The legacy of Shiphrah and Puah is a powerful reminder that history is often shaped by the quiet courage of ordinary people. They were not seeking fame. They were not leading an army. They were simply doing their job with integrity and compassion. Their story echoes through the ages, a testament to the idea that one small act of moral clarity can send ripples of hope across generations. They challenge each of us to ask ourselves, when faced with a choice between what is easy and what is right, which path will we choose? For in that choice lies the power to shape a better future.